My daughter gave her husband $500,000. 2 weeks later it was gone. Then he showed up at my house and punched me when I said no. I'm 62 years old, and I never imagined the day would come when someone I once trusted like family would strike me in my own home. But that's exactly what happened. It started when my daughter Laura showed up at my door with her husband Daniel. They looked exhausted, like people who had just watched their entire life collapse overnight. Her hair was messy, her face pale, and her eyes filled with a kind of panic I had never seen before. Daniel, on the other hand, couldn't stand still. He paced across my porch, muttering to himself, running his hands through his hair like he was trying to solve a problem that had already destroyed him. I let them in. That was my first mistake. 2 weeks earlier they had sold their home. Not just any home, the same one I had helped them buy years ago. A place filled with memories. A place where my granddaughter had taken her first steps. They sold it for $500,000. Every dollar of it. And handed it all over to Daniel. It's an investment, Laura told me, forcing a smile. A digital business. This is our chance to build something big. I didn't believe it then. I definitely didn't believe it when they told me the money was gone. Gone. No business. No investors. No returns. Just empty promises and complicated explanations that didn't make any sense. Then came the request. We just need a place to stay, Laura said softly. Just for a little while. I looked at her, really looked at her. The stress, the exhaustion, the damage already done. And I made a decision. I can't help you like that, I said. That's when everything changed. Daniel stepped forward, his expression shifting instantly, from control to cold. Help your own daughter? That's what you call enabling. His voice got louder. Aggressive. I stayed calm. I had seen this kind of behavior before. I'm talking to my daughter, I said firmly. That's when he got close enough for me to smell alcohol on his breath. You think you're better than us? He snapped. Then I said one word. No. I didn't even see the punch coming. 1 second I was standing there. The next I was stumbling back, blood running from my nose. Laura screamed. Daniel just stood there, breathing hard, staring at me like I was the enemy. That moment changed everything. Get out, I said quietly. And as they walked away, something inside me shifted. Because I realized this wasn't just about money anymore. This was something much darker. So I did the only thing I could think of. I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. And what he told me next. It made that punch feel like the least dangerous thing Daniel had done. Because what I discovered about my son-in-law that day made me realize I was never the real target, just the final one. I arrived at my lawyer's office still shaken, my nose swollen and my thoughts racing. But the moment I saw his face, I knew something was very wrong. He wasn't surprised by my story. He was expecting it. 6 months ago, he began, pulling out a thick file. You asked me to look into Daniel. Do you remember? I nodded slowly. I had felt something was off back then, but I never imagined how right that instinct was. He slid a photograph across the desk. It was Daniel. But not the Daniel I knew. He was dressed sharply, standing beside an older woman, wealthy, elegant, and smiling. That's not your daughter, my lawyer said. That's a widow. And she transferred nearly all her assets to him before she died. My stomach dropped. Then came another photo. Another woman. Another story. Same pattern. Different victims. One by one he laid them out in front of me, like pieces of a puzzle I didn't want to solve. Women in their 40s, 50s, even 60s. All financially stable. All emotionally manipulated. All left with nothing. Daniel isn't his real name, my lawyer continued. He's been using different identities for years. That's when everything clicked. This wasn't bad luck. This wasn't a failed investment. This was a system. A calculated, repeated scam. And my daughter was just his latest entry point. Then came the part that made my blood run cold. He's been asking about your will, my lawyer said. I froze. What? He wanted to know what happens to your estate, if your daughter inherits it. The room felt smaller, colder. Suddenly, every interaction I had with Daniel started to replay in my mind. The questions about my health, the comments about my age, the subtle suggestions. It wasn't random. It was preparation. You weren't the backup plan, my lawyer said quietly. You were the main target. I sat there in silence trying to process it. 5 years. 5 years he had been in our lives. Smiling, laughing, sitting at my dinner table, planning, waiting, positioning himself for one final move. The punch. I asked slowly. That wasn't anger, my lawyer replied. That was panic. Because his plan was falling apart. And desperate people? They don't stop. They escalate. He placed a document in front of me. A restraining order, he said. You need protection. Immediately. I stared at it. Signing it meant something more than legal action. It meant accepting the truth. That my daughter might already be too far gone. That I wasn't just in danger financially, but physically. And then he said something I will never forget. If you don't act now, this doesn't end with money. Because what we uncovered next proved that Daniel wasn't just planning to take everything I had. He was preparing for something far worse. The deeper we looked, the worse it got. Within hours, my lawyer brought in an investigator, a former federal agent who specialized in financial crimes. What he showed me didn't just confirm our fears. It shattered any illusion that this could be fixed. The first document he placed in front of me looked official. A loan application. $75,000. Using my house as collateral. I frowned. That's impossible, I said. I never signed anything. He flipped to the last page. And there it was. My signature. Perfectly forged. Notarized. Convincing enough that the bank had already approved the loan. The money? Already gone. Transferred into an account connected to Laura and Daniel. That's when the truth hit me like a second punch. While I thought they were just desperate, they had already started taking from me. Without asking. Without permission. And it didn't stop there. Another document. Power of attorney. Giving Laura control over my finances. Another one. Medical records claiming I had early-stage dementia. I stared at the papers, my hands shaking. This is insane, I whispered. No, the investigator said calmly. It's methodical. This wasn't chaos. It was a strategy. Create doubt about my mental state. Gain legal control. Drain my assets. And if needed, remove me entirely. Then came the final piece. A rejected life insurance application. On me. With Laura as beneficiary. And Daniel as backup. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Because we all understood what that meant. This wasn't just financial manipulation anymore. This was something darker. More deliberate. More dangerous. Then the investigator asked me a question that made my skin crawl. Have they ever brought you food or drinks recently? I paused. Thinking back. The coffee Daniel insisted I try. The herbal supplements Laura encouraged me to take. The strange fogginess I had been feeling. The fatigue. The confusion. I had blamed it on age. I was wrong. I wasn't aging. I was being drugged. Slowly. Carefully. Just enough to make me easier to control. And suddenly everything made sense. The urgency. The pressure. The manipulation. It wasn't random. It was a countdown. And I had almost missed it. But now I knew exactly what I was dealing with. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't afraid. I was angry. Because Daniel thought I was weak. He thought I would fold. He thought I would lose. He had no idea what he had just started. Because when my daughter came back the next day, I realized the real battle wasn't against him anymore. It was against her. The next evening, I found Laura sitting on my front steps. Alone. She looked broken. For a moment, I almost forgot everything. She was still my daughter. but I forced myself to stay cautious. "Where's Daniel?" I asked. "He's not here," she said quickly. Then she started talking. Apologies, excuses, justifications. "He didn't mean to hit you, he's just under stress." I listened quietly. Then I asked her one question. "What about the loan?" Her face changed instantly. Confusion, fear, then denial. "I don't know what you're talking about." But her eyes gave her away. And then she said something that confirmed everything. "Daniel handles all the finances. I just sign what he tells me." That was it. That was the moment I realized the truth. She wasn't just a victim anymore. She was part of it. Maybe manipulated. Maybe blind. But still involved. Then I asked her something harder. "Have you been putting anything in my food?" She froze. And that silence? That was my answer. Tears filled her eyes. "He said it would help you, that you were getting confused." My heart sank. She thought she was helping me. But she had been helping him destroy me. That's when I knew there was no middle ground left. "Listen to me," I said firmly. "There is no business. He's been lying to you." She shook her head violently. "No. You're lying. Even with proof. Even with everything." She chose him. And then she said the words that ended everything. "If I have to choose, I choose him." I felt something inside me break. But I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just made my decision. "I'm changing my will," I said. Her expression turned from shock to rage. "You can't do that." "I can," I replied calmly. "And I will." She left furious, threatening legal action. And as I stood there watching her walk away, I realized something painful. I hadn't just lost money. I had lost my daughter. But what she did next wasn't just betrayal, it was a full attack, and it nearly destroyed everything I had left. Within days, the legal attack began. Laura filed a petition claiming I was mentally unfit. Dementia, manipulation, incompetence, all supported by forged documents, fake witnesses, and a carefully crafted story designed to make me look like the villain. At the same time, rumors started spreading. Neighbors whispering, friends acting distant, even strangers looking at me with judgment. Daniel wasn't just stealing money. He was destroying my reputation, isolating me, weakening my defense, just like he had done to others. But this time, he made a mistake. He stayed too long. Because while he was busy attacking me, I was preparing something he didn't expect. I went public, shared everything. The fraud, the manipulation, the truth. And that's when everything turned. The story spread. Other victims came forward. Authorities got involved. And suddenly, Daniel wasn't the hunter anymore. He was the target. A warrant was issued. But when they went to arrest him, he was gone. Vanished, just like before. Except this time, he didn't win, because the truth caught up to him. Months later, he was arrested, charged across multiple states, facing a future behind bars. As for Laura, he left her with nothing. No money, no support, no escape. She finally saw the truth. But by then, everything was gone. Years later, I rebuilt my life. Not perfectly, not completely, but peacefully. Because I learned something most people never do. Sometimes the hardest thing you'll ever do is say no to someone you love. And mean it. Because in the end, I didn't lose everything. I lost what was already broken and saved what was still worth protecting.
Before you go, if you think this story was shocking, you need to watch this next one. Because what happened there was even more unbelievable.